So I wanted to make this video because I think this camera is way underrated. It's a camera that everyone wants, don't use, or end up selling. I've been using my go-to now for almost a year, and yeah, I've actually used it not only to make a few videos to post here on YouTube, but I've actually used it a couple of times a week for a year. Now, a week ago, I made a video comparing and reviewing the 4 action cameras that I have, and which I took on my latest trip. The Osmo Action, DJI Action 2, Insta360 Go 2, and the Hero 10. But today I want to shine some light on the Insta360 Go 2 and give you my experience and honest opinion about this $300 tiny camera, and if it's trash or if it's gold. Now, I also want to make it clear that Insta360 sent me this a long time ago and I haven't paid anything for it. And this video is not sponsored, so you'll get the full honesty and my opinion whether it's a no or a go. So the Go 2 is one of the smallest cameras on the market, if not the smallest, which can shoot 1440p at 50 fps, which you can slow down to 50% speed in a 23.98 fps timeline or project. It's not as good as the other cameras that I have, like the Action 2, Osmo Action, and the GoPro, but I find it easier to use. So I took this on multiple hikes and was really fascinated of how easy it was to capture my hikes. I took it to the beach, through the forest, and top of mountains. Even my 5-year-old son loved using this in the pool. The Go 2 also comes with a lot of accessories which will get you going once you get this device. Now, the only thing I used for this trip though was the head mount and the charging case. So after a few minutes of recording, it was really easy to maintain full charge by placing the Go 2 back in the charging case. And this was also really convenient because I could also change the settings if I wanted to record with different settings. I could do everything in the charging case whilst the Go 2 was still mounted on my head clip. But let me show you a sequence of about 30 seconds or so you can get the feel of how it can be used and how I used it to capture some highlights of our trip before we get over to some settings and the best way of using it to get the best quality and also the versatility of this tiny camera.
Going off to different places, different planets. Watch your aura pass me by, losing balance. What if we run out of time and second chances? Empty-handed. You like the fast life. You like to drive and get down and dirty. Act like the bad guy. You want some love, be like when you feel like calling at midnight. You got the best of me. You got me losing sleep. I've been hopeful, baby. I was hoping maybe that you cross my path. I've been sinking lately, and it's hard to move.
So after spending about 8 months of using the Go2 at least 2 times a week for personal videos, as well as mounting it on different things like RC cars, FPV drones, and so on, it's still one of my favorite cameras, even though it's fairly old. It's the camera that will always have a place in my pocket. Now over the time, I've seen so many reviews and comparisons of people putting this up against the GoPro and Action 2, including myself. I made a full video comparison against the GoPro Hero 10, and it's linked down in the description below if you want to check that one out. But if we take this from a different standpoint and just remove all the comparisons out there and focus on the Go2 alone, we can actually see how convenient it is to use this. And yeah, we'll find some wobbling here and there when walking, but it's the same with the GoPro and especially the Action 2. As long as you walk uneven grounds like doing an upwards hike, you will experience wobbling and some tearing, especially if you use automatic settings. But I think the Go2 justifies this by being so small and versatile. Let's talk about the settings, or more like how and when to use it. So the Go2 has a pretty small sensor and an aperture of f2.2, and it weighs only 26.5 grams, which is pretty awesome itself, but it's also limited. Now with the Go2, you will always get a better image quality if you adjust manual settings and stay away from auto mode. This is the same for any camera out there. But let's face it, you're not getting a camera like this to always change the settings in manual mode. You'll get this because it's portable, small, and extremely versatile. So for the entire duration of owning the Go2, I've always used auto settings and recorded in pro video mode. The only thing I've done is to prioritize when to bring and when to use the Go2, because this camera is not the best in low light. But when using this on sunny days, you will get such a good image, and the higher the sun is, the better the image will get. But if you only have this camera to shoot with, I suggest trying manual mode to keep the ISO down. This will prevent grain and lower the risk of image tearing. Now this also depends on where you shoot, what's the type of scenario you're shooting in, and if there's a lot of trees and if there's a sunrise or sunset, I suggest using manual mode to keep the ISO down so you don't risk destroying your image in form of having a lot of grain or the image tearing. It also depends on how you use it. So the more walking you do, and if it's uneven ground, then you might risk having more tearing, especially if there's low light. We can take a look at this example here. This is when I'm walking in the forest versus walking up to the Lanikai pillbox, and you can see the difference in the quality and the tearing, and also if you can spot it, there's a little grain in there as well. So that's actually my settings, the settings that I use with the Insta360 Go2. And I use it in bright conditions and make sure that I have enough light around me. That's the only sort of settings that I use. I use the light as my settings because it's so small and versatile, and I want it to be like that. I don't want to change up anything. I don't want to put much effort into changing the manual settings and do a lot of editing with the footage in post-production. I want it to be clean and simple. So let's look at some of the key features that I personally like about this Go2. The Go2 can shoot 1440p in 50 fps, and even with a small sensor, using this in bright conditions, it will give you a pretty good image. And with the Insta360 Studio app, you can take the same footage recorded on the Go2 and export a vertical and horizontal video to post on different social media platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. So no need to crop and adjust your video in post-production, which means you won't lose any quality. Now the Go2 is super small and easy to use, and after a few days you won't be missing the screen which the other cameras has, because it captures everything in front of you, and you will soon get used to this once you have used it a few times. And the case it comes with works as a charging case and a tripod. And with the Go2's magnetic back, you basically have everything you need to get started. All included and additional accessories is some of the better I've used. And the Go2 works with other accessory brands as well, like GoPro, Happy Share Up, and Telesin, just to mention a few. Now these are the key features that I think stand out. Oh, I forgot, you can also shoot in log profile if you like to twinkle with colors, so this is also a really nice option. My favorite one is the vivid color profile, and this is what I've used throughout our entire trip. So I really love the vivid color profile from this Go 2, so I don't really have to do much with it. It's either bump the saturation or twinkle a little bit with the different color options or apply a very subtle LUT. So I really enjoy the vivid color profile. Now personally, I think there's less hype around this than it actually deserves. Even for such an old camera, I still think it's a must-have camera in your bag or pocket, wherever you want to place it. There's so many ways you can use it. You can do some freehand hiking or mount it on your drone or FPV drone, or capture some behind the scenes if you're making a video tutorial. Now if you're making the video tutorial alone and you don't want to bring a tripod, or if you only have one camera and that's the one you're making the behind the scenes of, you can easily use the Go 2 to capture the movement you want to show and vice versa. So hopefully you found this video helpful, and if you did, make sure to subscribe for more. And if you loved it, you can always hit that like button for the algorithm. So until next time, take care and I will see you soon.